having only downloaded the app a few days ago. I guess I was afraid I'd get bullied if my classmates found out about it. You see, last year, they all caught me playing Pokemon Y, and they tortured me for months afterwards. As tempting as it was to play, I was more afraid of the social stigma attached to Pokemon. But when I saw the very same people who had mocked and belittled me over Pokemon Y were now walking around the school trying to catch wild Pokemon with their phones, I realized I had nothing to worry about. I had a lot of work to do if I wanted to catch up to the level of the players in my town. And I mean a lot. The thing is, I live out in the country, and it takes me 2 buses to reach my town. This is extremely problematic, because unless you've been living under a rock for the past month, you probably already know that Pokestops always tie into real-world landmarks. A statue, a store, a church, or even a police station. There was always something. Well, when you live in the middle of nowhere like I do, those things don't really exist. What I'm trying to get at is that there weren't any Pokestops near my house, and even the Pokemon themselves were scarce. So while I did encounter random Rattatas and Pidgeys after walking for miles on the only road in vicinity, I quickly found myself running low on items. So I came up with a plan. I'd hang around town after school and go poke hunting before catching the last bus home. My parents wouldn't mind. As soon as the last bell of the day rang, I followed the tidal wave of students rushing down the stairs and out of the building. Most were just trying to get prime seating on the bus, while others were like me and trying to go off on their own Pokemon adventures. Still, I was a little self-conscious. I strayed away from my fellow classmates and headed towards Main Street in hopes of replenishing my stock. Bingo! There were at least 3 Pokestops on the map. I tracked each one down, spun the icon, and earned some much-needed Pokeballs and potions. Just as I was about to turn back and head home, I spotted one last Pokestop that I had missed. Somebody had placed a lure on it. I'm sorry, if you're not familiar, a lure is a special item that's placed on Pokestops which attract various Pokemon to them, and it benefits any player in the area. So it was bound to be teeming with Pokemon. I decided I would make one last trip before heading home. I turned around and started walking towards the point on the map. It was a ways away, but I was determined to reach it. You don't just let a perfectly good lure go to waste. The closer I got to the Pokestop, the more unnerved I became. My steps barely seemed to make an impact on the map. The Pokestops I had visited earlier were 20, maybe 30 minutes away by foot. I was pretty sure I had already passed the 30-minute mark at this point, but I was only halfway to the stop. And as I continued along, I realized it led me straight to the woods. I stopped at the edge of the forest, perplexed. I stared at my screen, wondering what a Pokestop was doing in the middle of nowhere as the icon showed nothing but darkness. What were the GPS coordinates pointing to? I'd never heard of there being any kind of building or statue in the woods. Something just didn't sit right with me. The little voice in the back of my head was telling me, turn away, go home. But as I saw the lure expire, just like that, a new one took its place. I decided to throw caution to the wind and just press on. I just couldn't convince myself to waste that damn lure. I trudged into the forest, paying more attention to my phone than my whereabouts. It was getting closer now. Almost close enough to activate the Pokestop. Heck, I was already noticing a clear increase in Pokemon in the area. They caused me to stop and change my course a few times. Then, just as I was about to reach my destination, the unsurprising happened. my phone battery died, and my screen went black. Great, I cursed beneath my breath. Now, I was in the middle of the woods, not even 100 feet from the damn Pokestop I had walked so far to reach, but with absolutely no way to reap the benefits. Worse yet, I realized I didn't know my way back. The crackle of a twig brought my attention to someone several yards away. I recognized my classmate on the other side of a nearby clearing. His nose was glued to a screen as he searched for the mysterious Pokestop. I was just about to call out to him when I heard another sound. Just as Frank was walking into the clearing, someone ran out from the bushes and tackled him to the ground. I'm not sure what I saw. I'm not sure if my mind is filling in the blanks with horrific details, or if I really saw the hulking figure of a man bring his baseball bat down on Frank's head. I know for sure what I heard, though. I know I heard the whipping sound it made as it came down, and the nauseating crack when it hit its target. For as long as I live, I will never forget that grotesque sound. It was so violently loud that it made all the birds in the area fly away. So terrifying that I didn't even realize I was screaming until I saw the bat-wielding man was running towards me with the blood-caked weapon. I saw the crimson stain his face and clothes. That color was what brought me back to my senses. At least, enough to get me to run for my life. I stumbled through the bushes and ran until I was completely out of breath. When I couldn't run anymore, I hid. I hid and prayed my nervous, exhausted, hyperventilating breaths wouldn't give me away. I know you're out there, he said. His chilling, stoic voice knocked the wind out of me. He continued, I'm going to catch you. Trembling, I hugged my knees and made myself as small as I could. Meanwhile, his footsteps grew louder. Beads of sweat rolled down his face. I didn't know if he would pass me or spot me immediately. I mean, how noticeable was I? I couldn't even remember what I was wearing. Something bright? Oh God, I hope not. Come out, wherever you are. Every word out of his mouth felt like a dagger in my chest. I'm going to find you. I whimpered. Big mistake. His footsteps quickened. He knew where I was. He had to know. I had no choice. I darted out of my hiding spot and started running again. My body was shaking. My legs could barely hold me up. Oh, I felt lightheaded. Yet somehow this time, I didn't run out of breath. I could hear him following me, but his footsteps grew more distant. And finally, I made it out of the woods. I didn't stop running until I was at the bus stop, and my heart didn't stop pounding until I got home. I told my parents everything. I'm not sure they believed me though, because they called Frank's parents first. When they were told that he hadn't come home yet, they called the cops. The police combed the woods in search of the man I had seen, but all they found were bodies. 5 bodies, to be exact. Frank, a couple teenagers from my school, and 2 grade school kids. 2 children, only a few years younger than me. I don't know what scares me the most. The thought that if my phone battery hadn't died, that I would be dead right now. Or the fact that they didn't find the guy, and he's still out there, using Pokestops and lures to add people to his own sick PokemonGo collection. The end.